So as I have mentioned just now, this verse gives the constitutional position of the living entity. What is the verse? Mamevansho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. What Krishna is telling, the living entity in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So, living entity, they are Krishna's eternal fragmental parts. Mame Vansho Jiva Loke. In this material world, in this Jiva Loke. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard. But they are conditioned here. So, how they are conditioned living entity here in material world? Who is conditioning them?
The three modes of
Three modes of material nature. They are binding, they are conditioning the living entities. And because of that conditioning, they are struggling very hard. And how they are conditioning, how they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So through the senses, living entity is struggling. This is the translation. We'll see the purport. Somebody can read.
In this verse, the identity of the living being is clearly given. The living entity is the fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditional life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. It is clearly said Sanatanaha. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are called Vishnu Tattva and the secondary expansions are called living entities. In other words, the Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion and the living entities are the separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms like Lord Ram, Narasimha, Vishnu Murti, and all the predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets. The separated expansions, the living entities, are eternally servitors. The personal expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead, are always present. Similarly, the separated expansions of living entities have their identities.
Thank you, bro. So, what Prabhupada is explaining here. In this verse, and the identity of the living being is clearly given. And the living entity is fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord eternally. Krishna has mentioned, Mamevansho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana word has used. So, like Krishna is Sanatan, Krishna is eternal. Similarly, his part and parcel are also eternal. Yeah. This is one of the common sense also we can understand. It is not that he assumes individuality in his conditioned life and in his liberated state becomes one with the Supreme Lord. He is eternally fragmented. So this is the opinion of Mayavadi. So what is their opinion? They say that when living entity is conditioned in his conditioned life by three modes, and when after practice of uh, bhakti, and or according to them by practice of jnana, jnana sadhana, and when living entity performs, then he gets liberated. And when living entity is in the liberated state, and he is no more conditioned, he is no more different from the Supreme Lord, from the Brahman. He merges, living entity merges into the Supreme Lord, into the Brahman. And a living entity loses his identity. And that is the opinion of Mayavadi. But Krishna has not mentioned that. Krishna's opinion is different. Krishna is mentioning living entities individual, eternally. It is clearly said, Sanatana, Prabhupada. According to the Vedic version, the Supreme Lord manifests and expands himself in innumerable expansions, of which the primary expansions are Vishnu Tattvas, and secondary expansions are called the living entities. Ansha and Vibhinna Ansha. So, in other words, Vishnu Tattva is the personal expansion, and living entity is the separated expansions. By his personal expansion, he is manifested in various forms. So, which are the personal expansion? And we saw worship of these personal expansion is also worship of is also considered worship of these personal expansion is also considered the pure devotional service. We saw some verses before also it is mentioned. The separated expansion, the living entities are eternally servitors. The personal expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the individual identities of the Godhead are always present. The personal expansion also, they are also always present. They are also Sanatana. Similarly, the separated expansion of living entity have their identities and they are also Sanatana. So both the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are eternal. Prabhupada has mentioned, but Krishna has mentioned about only living entity, they are eternal. So Prabhupada is adding that Vishnu Tattva, they are also eternal. Next, somebody can.
As fragmental parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the living entities also have fragmental portions of his qualities, of which independence is one. Every living entity, as an individual soul, has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul, and by proper use of independence, he is always liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal, as the Supreme Lord is. In his liberated state, he is freed from the material condition, and he is under the engagement of transcendental service unto the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature, and he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. The living entities, not only human beings, and the cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestations.
Thank you, bro. So, next, as a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the living entity also have a fragmental portion of his qualities. So they are part. So qualities also are coming in some minute quantity. Some portion of Krishna's quality is coming in them, of which independence is one. So independent, Krishna is Swarat, he is independent. So that quality is coming also in living entity. So every living entity as an individual soul has his personal individuality and a minute form of independence. So why it is coming in living entity? Because living entity is part of Krishna. And Krishna has these qualities. And so Prabhupada is especially mentioning two qualities. What are they? Individuality and independence. And so they are possessed by Krishna, these two qualities. So that's why they are coming down to living entity also. By misuse of that independence, because it has come to living entity from Krishna. But it has come, but how it is used by living entity, that also matters. So if it is misused, then what happens? Living entity becomes conditioned. But if it is properly used, then living entity becomes liberated. In either case, he is qualitatively eternal as the Supreme Lord. So either he is conditioned or liberated. In both the cases, living entity is eternal. He is individual. In his liberated state, he is freed from the material condition and he is under the engagement of the transcendental service of the Lord. So when he is liberated, he is performing Krishna consciousness or doing transcendental service to the Lord. In his conditioned life, he is dominated by the material modes of nature that we saw. And he forgets the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So as a result, he has to struggle very hard to maintain his existence in the material world. So here it is mentioned in the verse Karshati. And the living entity is struggling, it is mentioned. So how he is mentioning that point Prabhupada has mentioned here. And so why he is mentioning? Because he is conditioned. And why he is conditioned? Because of misuse of his independence. The living entity is conditioned because misuse of independence, which living entity has received from Krishna. So that's why living entity is struggling. Then the living entity, not only human beings, cats and dogs, but even the greater controllers of the material world, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and even Vishnu, are all parts and parcel of the Lord. So not only the human beings, but here the Krishna has used the word Mame Vangsho Jiva Loke. Krishna has used the word Jiva, not Manushya. So that point Prabhupada is highlighting. The living entity means what? Jiva. And Jiva means cats and dogs also, and Brahma, Shiva, and even Vishnu. They are all eternal, not temporary manifestation. So Krishna has mentioned Jiva, but Prabhupada has taken the meaning here. The parts, all the parts. Jiva means parts, living parts. And so that's why Shiva and Vishnu came. And they are not Jiva, but they are part and parcel. They are also part. They are, we saw that. They are also, Prabhupada used the word expansions. And so they are also expansions of the Krishna. And so in that sense, they are coming here. Next.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
It just felt like we have already done this. I was looking at the video again. I think we completed the purport, and then we
Okay.
again went back to the shloka. So I just saw the last part about the shloka.
Okay. We have completed. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No problem.
Sorry.
So this we have completed, and somebody has any doubt, they can ask. Right? So then we'll move ahead. Right? So when after completing this verse number 7, so we come to know that about the living entity. Now, in this verse, in the verse number 7, so what Krishna has told that mame vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So Krishna has used the word manasthani indriyani. So regarding this, acharyas, they are mentioning that this verse point out that mind powers to determine the living entity's future. So mind has power, and so mind determines, and so how we act, because Krishna has used the word here, especially manashasthani indriyani. So mind has that powers, means the thoughts have power, and the thoughts, our thoughts determines our future life. So regarding that future life, and so Krishna speaks the verse number 8. So this is one point given by acharyas. So how Krishna speaks about the future birth is mentioned in the verse 8, and how living entity gets his future birth. What is the verse? Shariram yad avapnoti yacchapi utkramatishvarah grahita vetani samyati vayurgandhan ivashaya. What Krishna is mentioning now, the living entity in the material world carries his different conception of life. So every living entity has his own different conceptions, and that living entity carries that conception from his one body to his next body, as the air carries the aroma. So wherever air goes, and sometimes clean places, sometimes unclean places, and so whatever smell is there, aroma is there, and in that clean or unclean place, and air carries that impression. Similarly, the mind, and sometimes good thoughts, sometimes bad thoughts, and so that thought mind carries in next lives. And what happens after that? Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it over to take another. So this cycle of taking one body after another is going on, and mind is helping to continue this cycle. How mind is helping? Because Krishna has mentioned different conception, living entities carrying different conception, and how the mind is helping to carry this different conception. And so that in that sense, mind is helping. Clear translation? Purport. Somebody can read. Yellow one, somebody can read.
Here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, and if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends on him. At the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna.
Thank you. So Prabhupada is mentioning here, living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. And so, Shariram yad avapnoti, and yat cha api utkramanti Ishvaraha, and the Lord of the body. So, in translation, he has not given. So now Prabhupada is mentioning that here the living entity is described as Ishvara, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade, or if he likes, he can move to a lower class. What is the point here is he has a free will, living entity, to act. Is a minute free will, because dependence is there, and we saw in the last verse. So minute independence is there, and here also Prabhupada has mentioned. The change his body undergo depends upon him. And so some living entity, they advance and spiritually. And so they get body also according to that. So and some degrade their consciousness. And so change is there and at the time of death. But how the change, he will advance or degrade, and that depends upon whom? That depends upon the living entity. So at the time of death, the consciousness he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. If he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or dog, he is sure to change to a cat's or a dog's body. That photo is also there. That living entity who sleeps, then he gets a beer body. And in beginning of some Bhagavad Gita's, it is there. And then living entity who doesn't supposed to wear clothes, and but doesn't wear, then he gets a tree's body. Then such kind of things, why they are happening? Based on this verse, because they are developing that conception, and so that's why they are receiving body according to that. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, and he will change into the form of a demigod. If he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka. He has goodness consciousness, and then he will go to demigod's planet. But he has transcendental consciousness by practice of bhakti, then he will go to spiritual world, Krishna Loka, and associates with Krishna. So what is essence of this paragraph is our consciousness at the time of death, and decide which body we are going to take. Next. Somebody can read. Next, somebody can read.
It is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life.
Thank you, bro. So some philosophers, some thinkers, they have wrong understanding. And so what is their wrong understanding? Prabhupada has mentioned. Their claim is false. And so what they are claiming, they claim that annihilation of this body. So when annihilation happens? At that point of death. And so at the time of death, when this body is destroyed, annihilated, and then what happens? Everything is finished. So there is no more birth and death after that. So this is wrong understanding, false claim. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of his next body. But what is the actual point which Krishna has mentioned in the verse? That the soul is transmigrating from one body to another body, and the present activities and present consciousness, they determine the next body. That is the correct understanding. One gets a different body according to karma, and he has to quit this body in due course. It is stated here that the subtle body, which carries the conception of the next body, develops another body in the next life. The last line is, it is stated here that the subtle body, and the subtle body is what? Mind, intelligence, and false ego, which carries the conception of the next body. So I mentioned that mind is helping, and how mind is helping in carrying the conception from current body to next body. So mind is helping in carrying that conception, means carrying that consciousness, current consciousness. This process of transmigrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. And in last verse, Krishna has mentioned manashasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So that struggle, what is that struggle? And which is coming because of the senses, subtle body. Because of the mind. So now Acharyas, they are telling that in the last verse, and means which verse? 7th verse. And it is mentioned that manashasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So there it is mentioned that there are indriyas and senses. So jiva, and a living entity, has senses. It is mentioned in the previous verse. And now this 8th verse is elaborating this point. So how 8th verse is elaborating this point? So jiva is using senses and to create different types of conception in current body, and mind is one of the sense. It is carrying the conception in next body. So in that sense, 8th verse is explaining the point mentioned in the 7th verses. It is elaborating and explaining and elaborating the point mentioned in the 7th verse. This is one of the explanation Acharya has given. And okay, then so now we studied here that mind is carrying the conception from current body to next body. So now this quality of this mind and will be explained in ninth verse. And so how this mind attracts the next body. So regarding the quality of the mind, it is mentioned, quality of mind is mentioned in the ninth verse. So we'll see what quality of mind is mentioned. They are talking about. When we see the ninth verse, then we will understand. The ninth verse is Kshotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam granam evacha adhisthaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. What in ninth verse? The living entity, thus taking another gross body and leaving the current one, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. And he thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So, the quality of mind means here the quality of thoughts and which mind is carrying from current body to another body. So just details are mentioned in ninth verse. Already in eighth verse we saw the conception is going from current body to next body, and at that time only Prabhupada has mentioned that mind is carrying the conception. And now in this verse it is mentioned the mind is carrying the conception, and when the next body, the living entity he is receiving, at that time what is happening, mind is same, and in previous current body and next body mind is same. And then because of this mind, then new senses living entities getting. So these new senses, and they are based on the thoughts which are present in this mind. And because of these senses, then what happens? The living entity enjoys a particular set of sense objects according to the senses. Clear? Next translation, somebody can read.
In other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs in his next life, he gets a cat or dog body and enjoys consciousness is originally pure, like water. But if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, or the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities.
Thank you, bro. So one may say that Krishna has mentioned in the 7th verse, and what Krishna has mentioned, Mame Vamsho Jivaloke. So Jiva is the part and parcel of Krishna. Then if Jiva is coming from Krishna, then how the impurity came in Jiva? Because Jiva is pure. So Prabhupada is mentioning that if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the qualities of cats and dogs in his next life, he gets a, and Jiva is pure. But what is happening? The living entity, which living entity has a minute independence, and that independence is misused, and because of misuse of that independence, his consciousness is polluted. And so that is point here. And the living entity adulterates his consciousness with the quality of cats and dogs. So living entity is misusing in independence, is developing desires, and which are meant for cats and dogs. And living entity is not developing his consciousness in in a positive way in that case. And in his next life, he gets a body of cats and dogs and enjoy. Consciousness is originally pure, like water. Now, this point, a soul is pure, coming from Krishna. But if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. And similarly, a consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. But consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. Which mode and the living entity is associating, depending on that, he is developing that consciousness. Next.
Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness, where therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness. He is in his pure life, but if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. He does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 84 lakh species.
Thank you. So what Prabhupada is mentioning, the actual consciousness and pure consciousness and a real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. If that is present in the living entity at the point of death, at the time of death, then what happens? Then he will be transferred into the Goloka and Krishna Loka in his pure life. But when it is adulterated and some type of material mentality, then he gets the body accordingly. It is not necessary that he gets a body, human body only. And he currently he may be in human body, but in next life he may get a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or any other form of out of 84 lakh species. So all of you have studied this in the transmigration of the soul. Just now we are reading with the Krishna's word, how Krishna is mentioning. Then so here in 9th verse, so it is mentioned that we get senses. So how senses? So according to the desire which we have in our mind. So according to that, we get the senses. Like if a mind has a desire to fly, then what happens? The body will get the senses as a wing. Then mind has a desire to swim. Then mind, then senses, one will get senses like a fish, and that kind of thing will happen. So now one may say that, okay, this happened, Krishna is telling, and this happens. But why people are not able to see this with their eyes? Why people cannot see this happening with their eyes? So this question we may have. So Krishna answers this in verse number 10. So why people cannot see this? So Krishna is telling, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. what Krishna is telling, foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Everybody will not see this, and everybody will not have faith on this. And those who are foolish, so they cannot understand how living entity is quitting his body, and how the mind is carrying the conception from current body to next body. And so these all things, and so Krishna is telling the foolish people, and vimudha. Vimudha means Vishesha Rupena Mudha. They are special foolish person, and Vimudha. Nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. So the living entity which is enjoying the body, and what sort of body he is enjoying, that living entity cannot understand if he is foolish. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge, and that living entity can see all these things which Krishna is mentioning, how the soul is translating from one body to another. Anybody can read this.
The word Jnana Chakshusha is very significant. Without knowledge, one cannot understand how a living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. This requires a great amount of knowledge understood from Bhagavad Gita and similar literatures heard from a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under circumstances and is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. As a result, he is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment.
Thank you, bro. So the word Jnana Chakshusha, which Krishna has used. So Prabhupada is telling, without knowledge, one cannot understand how living entity leaves his present body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. So all these questions, and if somebody wants answer, and to all these questions, he has to have knowledge. So what are the questions? And so how living entity is living, and from one body to another body, nor what form of body he is going to take in the next life. And the next life, what is the form? Then, nor even why he is living in a particular type of body. And so the current body, why a particular living entity has received this current body. And so if somebody wants answer to these three questions, and then he has to have Jnana Chakshu, which Krishna has given in the previous verses, 8th verse and 9th verse. So great amount of knowledge and understood from Bhagavad Gita with a similar literatures. And another way is either he has to understand verse 8 or 9, and then in other scriptures also this point is mentioned, that he can understand from devotees, spiritual master. One who is trained to receive all these things is fortunate. One who gets this knowledge is a fortunate person. Every living entity is quitting his body under certain circumstances. He is living under certain circumstances. He is enjoying under certain circumstances under the spell of material nature. So every living entity is enjoying in different circumstances and quitting the body under different circumstances. And so circumstances means situations of every living entity are different, of dying and of enjoying. They are different. As a result, what is happening? The living entity is suffering different kinds of happiness and distress under the illusion of sense enjoyment. So because of this transmigration of body, and so what is the underlying theme? And uh, in below this transmigration of living entity, and what is happening? Living entity is suffering in this transmigration of one body from one body to another body. And what kind of suffering he is getting? He is getting happiness and distress. And why he is getting happiness and distress? Under the illusion of sense enjoyment. And living entity wants to enjoy materially. And so because of that, he is getting happiness and distress. And because of that, he is getting different kinds of body. So what is the root cause till now Prabhupada has mentioned? Sense enjoyment. So his focus is not devotional service. His focus is sense enjoyment. That's why it is happening. Next, persons who are everlastingly fooled by lust and desire lose all power to understand their change of body and their stay in a particular body. They cannot comprehend it. And so now here Prabhupada has given the reason and why people are vimudha and why people are foolish, because they are fooled by lust and means sense enjoyment, karma, and desire. Lose all power to understand their change of body. And so because of lust and their desire, and so their consciousness is covered, and they cannot understand that they are changing the body one after the another. They cannot understand how they have received the particular body, how they will receive the particular body in next life. All these points they are not understanding. Krishna has just used the word vimudha, foolish person. But why they are foolish? Prabhupada has given the reason here. What is the reason? They are fooled by, they have the lusty desires and desires, some desires and lusty desires. And here desires means desire except Krishna consciousness and desire except practice of devotional service. And so that desire if living entity has, or desire to enjoy. So two kinds of desire. And a lust means desire to enjoy separately from Krishna. And this desire is desire except desire of devotional service. So because of these two kinds of desires, they are fooled. Foolish people have these desires, and intelligent people have the desire to practice devotional service. Next, green one, somebody can read.
Those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and is changing its body and enjoying in different ways. A person in such knowledge can understand how the conditioned living entity is suffering in the material existence. Therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best to give this knowledge to the people in general, for their conditional life is very much troublesome. They should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world.
Thank you. So here Prabhupada has used one word, one line. Huh? One who is trained to perceive all these things is fortunate. Huh? So all of us, and so some devotee has helped us and to see how we are changing the body. That's why we are also fortunate, and all of us are fortunate. So similarly, Prabhupada is giving advice, and so those who have developed spiritual knowledge, however, can see that the spirit is different from the body and it's changing its body and enjoying in different ways. So, but this is now about intelligent people. Prabhupada is telling the intelligent people, they can see that how they are leaving this body and acquiring new body in next life, and how we are getting different kinds of enjoyment in this body. That intelligent person, they are understanding. A person in knowledge can understand how these things are happening. So therefore, those who are highly developed in Krishna consciousness try their best. So these people and those who are in knowledge and those who know that they have to develop a Krishna conscious desire, and they can try to give this knowledge to the people in general. For their conditioned life is very much troublesome. So why we should give? They are suffering, and because they do not have this knowledge. And Krishna has mentioned here, this knowledge will help them. Indirectly, Krishna has mentioned, and in this verse, they should come out of it and be Krishna conscious and liberate themselves to transfer to the spiritual world. So this advice Prabhupada has given us. So as we are helped by somebody else, and similarly, we also can help others. So their intense bodily desire and mental pleasure and makes one foolish. And intense bodily desire for self-enjoyment or sense enjoyment, and mental pleasure and desires means mental pleasure. So this is making somebody as a foolish, which Prabhupada has mentioned, and acharyas also have mentioned the same reason, and which Prabhupada has mentioned, why somebody is becoming foolish. So Krishna has given here the solution to this foolishness is knowledge, and Krishna has given. By hearing those who have knowledge and or hearing from the scriptures, and which mentions about the knowledge, and so one can have this knowledge either from scriptures or from devotees, and then one can see these changes. Now in next verse, Krishna will mention about if somebody is somebody lacks this kind of knowledge, and then what will be the result? And in person who lacks this knowledge, and who lacks this knowledge and of transmigration, and which Krishna has mentioned, how person is living body, transmigration of soul. And if somebody lacks this knowledge, then what will be the result that Krishna mentioned in the 11th verse? So we will take a 10 minutes break. So we'll meet at 6:4. So we will begin. I will just recite the verse. Yatanto yoginas chainam pashyanti atmani avasthitam yatanto api akrutatmano nainam pashyanti chetas. So what Krishna is telling, the endeavoring transcendentalist, who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. And he has mentioned in previous verse, 10th verse. So endeavoring transcendentalist can see. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may not try to. Sorry, though they may try to, and may not may. So what Krishna is mentioning, the endeavoring transcendentalist and is those who have knowledge, little knowledge, and they are practicing the process of self-realization. They can see the process of transmigration. Means soul is changing the body. That process they can see from current body to next body. That they can see. But those whose minds are not developed, those who don't have that knowledge, and they are not practicing the process of self-realization also, they cannot see and how this transmigration is working. And even though they try to see how this transmigration is working, still they cannot see. So what we can understand here that so we should have the proper knowledge. And so before trying and before practicing self-realization, we should have proper knowledge. And also what we have, we should be situated in self-realization. So we should have proper knowledge also, and we should have proper process of self-realization also. And then if we endeavor, then only we will get the result. And just endeavor is not enough. So with endeavor, what is required? Proper knowledge is also required. And proper knowledge and self process and a proper process. Proper knowledge and proper process. Both things are required. Then only we get result. After that, endeavors are also required. After these two, and then endeavor and acting on these things is also required. Effort is also required. So this we can learn for our practical application. And so we should have proper knowledge and proper process. And after that, if we endeavor, then only we will get success. And anywhere in material life also. And this is the formula: proper knowledge plus proper process plus endeavor. If only endeavor is there and these two things are absent, then what happen? Then we will not get the result. And that is clear. Okay. Clear? Translation is clear. Somebody can read the green part.
There are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self realization, but one who is not situated in self realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. The word yogina is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so called yogis and there are many so called association of yogis, but they are actually blind in the matter of self realization. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercise and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. They have no other information. They are called yatanto, P kritatmana. Even though they are enduring in so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. Such people cannot understand the process of transmigration of the soul.
Thank you, bro. So what Prabhupada is mentioning, there are many transcendentalists on the path of spiritual self-realization. So many people, they practice the process of self-realization. But one who is not situated in self-realization cannot see how things are changing in the body of the living entity. What is the point here? That there are many people externally, and they are on the path of self-realization, but they are not knowing the proper process of self-realization. And not situated in self-realization means what? They do not have the proper knowledge of proper process of self-realization. So that's why they are not able to see things and how this body is changing from one body to next, and that's why they make the wrong conclusion that at the point of death and everything is finished. And so such kind of wrong conclusion they come, they bring out such wrong conclusion. And why they bring out? Because they don't have the proper process, and they are not situated in self-realization. They do not have the proper process. That's why the result is not coming. The word yoginaha is significant in this connection. In the present day, there are many so-called yogis, and there are many so-called association of yogis. But they are actually blind in the matter of self-realization. Means present day, there are many yogis, but they are blind in the self-realization. Means they don't have the proper process of self-realization, and they have some concocted wrong process. Proper bona fide process they don't have. They are simply addicted to some sort of gymnastic exercises. What is their process? Doing some sort of gymnastic exercises. That is required to keep the body fit. But we cannot achieve self-realization through that process. And that process has its different benefit, and not the benefit which we receive from self-realization. That we will not get there, and are satisfied if the body is well built and healthy. So they are using it just to keep the body fit. They have no other information. So they don't have any other information above the body. They are called yatanto api akrutatmanaha. Means yatanto means they are endeavoring, and but they are not getting the result. And akrutatmanaha. Even though they are endeavoring in a so-called yoga system, they are not self-realized. So they are endeavoring for what? Keeping body fit. That they will get, and they will have nice body. They will not be diseased, and they will have the immunity power. But self-realization they will not get. Such people cannot understand the process of transmigration of the soul. So these people, they will not understand. So they will tell that body is everything. So what is our understanding? Body is required. But for what? For practice of devotional service. And so that is correct understanding, and correct knowledge and proper process. This is the understanding of this paragraph. Then only 2 lines are there. Only those who are actually in the yoga system and have realized the self. So means who have actually in the yoga system, means they have proper process and have realized the self, the world. This, in other words, means they have a proper knowledge also and about the world, about the Supreme Lord. And what is that proper knowledge and proper process? What is that? Bhakti yoga. And proper process is bhakti, pure devotional service. Only these people can only understand what they understand, this transmigration of soul. Everybody will not understand. Only those who have proper knowledge and proper process. And after that, only proper knowledge and proper process is not sufficient. That is required. And after that, endeavor is also required. And then only we can see the, we can have see, we can see means we can have faith and we believe and this the transmigration of soul. This is the point Prabhupada has mentioned. But what Krishna has mentioned is that why some people they are able to see and why some people they are not able to see. And so that point Krishna has mentioned. Okay. Clear? So now Krishna has mentioned first about the process of transmigration, and then who can believe this process, who cannot believe this process. And so now Krishna will give and Krishna has mentioned that those who have jnana chakshu, they will have faith on this process. On this process of transmigration of soul. They will have faith. Those who have jnana chakshus. And those who do not have jnana chakshus, they cannot see this process of transmigration of soul. This Krishna has mentioned. Now Krishna gives the process, or Krishna gives the knowledge, and Krishna gives the knowledge and how he is assisting in our material existence, how Krishna is helping us and to live materially here in this material world, and how Krishna is assisting us in our spiritual life also. So that point Krishna will mention. So this is one understanding Krishna is mentioning from verse number 12. Another thing Krishna is mentioning here, that those who do not have jnana chakshus, the people bereft of jnana chakshus, they, how these people, they can see they can develop the jnana, and although they do not have jnana chakshu, then how they can develop jnana? By seeing Krishna, how Krishna is assisting and how Krishna is helping the living entity. And that's why Krishna gives the knowledge and next knowledge. And so Krishna, he gives the knowledge about how he is assisting the living entity from verse number 12 to verse number 15. Sorry. In 4 verses, and in verse number 12 to 14, Krishna tells how he is assisting materially. Materially means material existence. assistance to living entity and in material existence. And verse number 15 will tell that how he is assisting in spiritual endeavors, we can say. Existence is there in spiritual world only. Here is endeavor. In material world we are doing, no? So that's why it is endeavor. And here is existence because it is in material world only. And so this knowledge, so why Krishna is giving this knowledge? And so there are two purposes. And again, I will tell that he just mentioned to the liberated souls that means liberated means those who are on the path of self-realization. And Krishna wants to mention them that how he is assisting and them in material existence also and in their spiritual endeavor and in this material life. And another reason Krishna is telling this knowledge to help those who do not have jnana chakshus. And so how we are saying that Krishna is helping those who do not have jnana chakshus, means those who do not have jnana chakshus means they want to see and in front of their eyes, that only they believe. And but this transmigration of soul, they are not able to see and they are not believing. And so that's why they do not have jnana chakshus. But such those people who do not have jnana chakshus, and so for them Krishna has to tell what they can see with their material eyes and some gross things, and then only they will believe Krishna's word and they will develop jnana chakshus. So such a gross things Krishna is telling and for helping them, those who do not have jnana chakshus. So first verse he tells to help them. So what Krishna is mentioning here, yad adityagatam tejo jagad bhashayate khilam yat chandramasi yat chagnau tat tejo vidhimamakam. What he is telling, the splendor of the sun, and yad aditya, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world and comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of the fire are also from me. So Krishna is now mentioning here the gross things. And why he's mentioning the gross things? To help those who do not have jnana chakshus. So such kind of people, they can also develop the jnana chakshus. For them, he is giving the knowledge to help them. So here Krishna is mentioning about the sun and about moon and fire. So everything is coming from him. So these things Krishna has mentioned before also. And where Krishna has mentioned about sun, moon, and he has mentioned about not fire only. And sun, moon, and fire. Previously, Krishna has mentioned where somebody is remembering. In this chapter only, Krishna has mentioned. In the verse number 6. And what is verse number 6? न तद् भासयते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावकः and yad gatva न निवर्तन्ते तद्धाम परमं मम. And so Sanskrit words are different. And न तद् भासयते सूर्यो and न शशांक. Surya, shashanka, and pavakah. This here what he is using, aditya, and then Chandramasi, Aditya Chandramasi, and Agno. And Agno he has used before Pavaka, and Chandramasi he has used Shashank, and in verse number 6. And here Surya, Aditya, he has used Surya, different word. He has talked about, there is different context is different, but just came to my mind that he has talked before also. So here context is Krishna is mentioning that sun, moon, and fire, and they are coming from me. We can see here. So how without sun, now Prabhupada also will explain in the purport that without sun, this material universe cannot exist, and sun has very vital role in functioning of this universe. Similarly, moon and fire, all of these things. So how Krishna is helping us to live in this universe at a universal level, how Krishna is helping us to live, we can understand here by giving these three things. Somebody can read it, purport.
The unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place, but one can begin to be established in knowledge by understanding what the Lord explains here. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, the splendor of the moon, the splendor of the electricity or fire are coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. The living entities are essentially the part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, and He is giving here with the hint how they can come back to God, head back to home.
Thank you, Prabhu. So if living entity has not developed the Jnana Chakshu, he is not believing the process of transmigration of soul. And if he is believing the process of transmigration of soul, then he is on higher level. But this Krishna is mentioning for those who are not having faith, or those who are not accepting the process of transmigration of soul. And for such unintelligent and people, they cannot see Krishna. And although they see sun, moon, fire, but they cannot understand and how sun came, and they just say by chance, or nature is doing everything. So what Prabhupada is mentioning, the unintelligent cannot understand how things are taking place, but one can begin to establish in knowledge by understanding what the Lord explains here. So if one understands this, and then slowly these people can develop Jnana Chakshu. Everyone sees the sun, moon, fire, and electricity. One should simply try to understand that the splendor of the sun, splendor of the moon, the splendor of the electricity coming from the Supreme Personality of God. So they have to start at understanding that all the splendor from all these three things, it is coming from Krishna. And if they accept this, in such a conception of life, the beginning of Krishna consciousness lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul in this material world. If they accept this, that this splendor is coming from Krishna, then beginning of Krishna consciousness, and they will begin their Krishna consciousness. And there is a next Prabhupada has mentioned, lies a great deal of advancement for the conditioned soul. So accepting this, that these splendors are coming from Krishna, and so it is a great advancement in this material world, and for a conditioned soul, those who do not have Jnana Chakshu. The living entity are essentially the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And he is giving here with the hint how they can come back to Godhead, back to him. So how he is giving hint? He is helping them to develop Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu. In that he is helping them and giving them hint how they can come to spiritual world. Next.
From this verse, we can understand that the sun is illuminating the whole solar system. There are different universes and solar systems, and there are different sun, moons, and planets also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.21, the moon is one of the stars. Nakshatrana Maham Sashi. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, the activities of the human beings are set up. They set fire to prepare their foodstuff, they set fire to start the factories, etc. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live.
Thank you, bro. So in Krishna has mentioned sun is illuminating the whole solar system. And so there are different universes and solar systems, and there are different suns, moons, and planets also. But in each universe, there is only one sun. So in each universe, there is one sun. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 10.21, the moon is one of the stars, Nakshatrana Aham Shashi. Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord. With the rise of the sun, yes, what is the meaning of this? Sunlight is due to the spiritual effulgence in the spiritual sky of the Supreme Lord's. Means the sun's energy and to illuminate is coming from Brahma Jyoti, the light from the body of Krishna. That's why it is coming from spiritual sky. With the rise of the sun, the activities of the human beings are set up. So when sunrise happens, living entity starts his activity. They set fire to prepare their food stuff. So living entity require fire for cooking his food, for factories also. So many things are done with the help of fire. Therefore, sunrise, fire, and moonlight are so pleasing to the living entities. Without their help, no living entity can live. And so now in this paragraph, second topic Prabhupada has touched. Second subject, which I have told before. That what is that second subject? That Krishna is helping and living entity and to live in this universe. And so this is the one of the purpose of Krishna's mentioning this verse, that he is telling that he is helping the living entity to live in this universe. Yeah. That topic Prabhupada has mentioned in this paragraph. He has given the detail, how sun is helping, how fire is helping, how moon is helping the living entity. Next paragraph.
So if one can understand that the light and splendor of the sun, moon, and fire are emanating from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin. By the moonshine, all the vegetables are nourished. The moonshine is so pleasing that people can easily understand that they are living by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Without his mercy, there cannot be sun. Without his mercy, there cannot be moon. And without his mercy, there cannot be fire. And without the help of sun, moon, and fire, no one can live. These are some thoughts to provoke Krishna consciousness in the conditioned soul.
Thank you. So now Prabhupada is explaining how mentioning of these three things and is helping the conditioned soul to develop Krishna consciousness or to develop Jnana Chakshu. So how it is practically helping the living entity to develop the Jnana Chakshu. So Prabhupada is mentioning, if one understand these three things, they are coming from Krishna, then one's Krishna consciousness will begin, because he is remembering Krishna. So that's why by the moonshine, and then the moonshine which he has not mentioned in previous paragraph, he has mentioned here. So how moonshine is helping us to live, and without moonshine it will be difficult for us to live here, because vegetables they will not be produced, and if moon is not there, then it is Krishna's mercy that Krishna is giving us fire, sun, and moon. Otherwise, we cannot live. So if we think like this, then our Krishna consciousness will develop, provoked, especially in conditioned soul. Because conditioned soul will have faith, and which they can see, things which they can see. These three things they can see, and they do not require Jnana Chakshu to see. And Jnana Chakshus are meant for people, those for seeing only, but things which are not visible with these material eyes, like transmigration of soul. And this is meant for people with Jnana Chakshu. But this conditioned soul can see how Krishna has given us sun, moon, and fire. So Krishna is helping those who are with lower consciousness. So now in this verse, Krishna has mentioned that he is helping to live in universe and in material universe. Correct? So now in verse 13, he will mention how he is helping in living on this material planet and earth, living on earth, you can see. Previous verse he has mentioned about universe, and now he is mentioning about planet, and how Krishna is helping us to live on this earth planet. So what Krishna is telling, Gam avishya cha bhutani dharayami aham ojasa pushnami cha aushadhi sarva somo bhutva rasatmakah. So Krishna is telling, Gam avishya cha bhutani. Gam, I enter into each planet, and by my energy they stay in orbit. So we know that there are many planets in a universe. So Krishna is entering into many universe. How he is entering into many universe? By sun, moon, and electricity. But now planet, and how Krishna is entering into each planet, and by his energy, that planet is in the orbit. We know that every planet has their own orbit. So because of Krishna only, that planet is in particular, he is sustaining. I became the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. And so now Krishna is mentioning how when he becomes the moon, Pushnami cha aushadhi sarva. So he is giving juice to all vegetables. Somo bhutva rasatmakaha. So when he becomes the moon, because of that, the vegetables are growing or they are getting juice. Krishna has mentioned here how he is helping us to live in this planet Earth. Somebody can read this.
It is understood that all the planets are floating in the air only by the energy of the Lord. The Lord enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. That is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. It is said there that one plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, enters into the planets, the universe, the living entity, and even into the atom. So, due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water. But when the living spark is out of the body and the body is dead, the body sinks. Of course, when it is decomposed, it floats just like straw and other things. But as soon as the man is dead, he at once sinks in the water. Similarly, all other planets are floating in space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His energy is sustaining each planet just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there is no possibility of the dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. Similarly, these planets which are floating in the air are actually held in the fist of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. By his strength and energy, all moving and non moving things stay in their place. It is said in the Vedic hymns that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. Were it not for him, all the planets would scatter like dust in air and perish. Similarly, it is due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the moon nourishes all vegetables. Due to the moon's influence, the vegetables become delicious. Without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow nor taste succulent. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, mankind could not survive. The word rasatmakaha is very significant. Everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon.
Thank you. So, Prabhupada is mentioning that so all the planets are floating in this air and only by the energy of the Lord. Krishna has mentioned. The Lord enters into every atom, every planet, and every living being. Andantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastha. So Krishna is there in every atom, every planet, and here he has mentioned planet, and every living being. That is discussed in the Brahma Samhita. It is said there that one plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, enters into the planets, the universe. So how Krishna is entering in this material world, we know by the form of Paramatma. He enters into this material world in everything and in every atom. Into the planet, universe, living entity, and even into the atom. Clear? So due to his entrance, everything is appropriately manifested. So how things are manifested here in material world? Because Krishna has entered in the form of Paramatma. When the spirit soul is there, a living man can float on the water. So now Prabhupada is mentioning the power of spirit. So because of spirit and living entity float. But when the living spark is out of the body is dead. And the body sinks. And in beginning, body sinks, but after some time, body decomposes. And then the body floats. Prabhupada is saying that. Similarly, all these planets are floating in the space, and this is due to the entrance of the supreme energy of the Supreme Personality of God. So this is the main point. Prabhupada just gave that analogy. So why all planets are floating? Not by gravitational force, but because of Krishna's supreme energy. So his energy is sustaining each planet, just like a handful of dust. If someone holds a handful of dust, there is no possibility of dust falling. But if one throws it in the air, it will fall down. So, like if we can keep the handful of dust in our hand and we can keep that dust floating. So, similarly, Krishna is keeping the all planets floating in the air. They are kept in the feast of the universal form of the Supreme Lord. So they are floating by the universal form of the Lord. By his strength and energy, all moving and non-moving things stay in their place. So Krishna is helping and helping in the arrangement inside the planet also. So inside the planet, all moving and non-moving things, they are in their particular place. Why? Because of Krishna's strength and energy. It is said in the Vedic hymns, means shlokas, and in the Vedic scriptures, that because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is shining and the planets are steadily moving. So Krishna has mentioned before also, previous verse, were it not for him, all the planets would scatter. If Krishna is not there, and like we are not there, then dust will scatter. Similarly, if Krishna is not there, his energy is not there, then planets will not be in their orbit. And so because of him, the moon is there. Due to moon's effulgence, Krishna has mentioned moon's point again. So without the moonshine, the vegetables can neither grow. So Prabhupada explaining that point. Human society is working, living comfortably, and enjoying food due to the supply from the Supreme Lord. And why we are living in the on this planet, and we are working and comfortably on this earth. We are enjoying food also on this earth. So everything, how we are getting, because Krishna has hold the earth. Dharayami aham ojasa, because he has um, hold he, on the earth, and that's why we are enjoying. And otherwise, mankind couldn't survive. And otherwise, we will not survive. If earth is not stable, he has not, Krishna has not kept hold, then we will not survive. And if earth is not, the word rasatmaka is very significant. And somo bhutva rasatmaka, Krishna mentioned. So everything becomes palatable by the agency of the Supreme Lord through the influence of the moon. So because of moon, that rasa means juice is coming inside the vegetables. That's why we are able to eat that. And if ras is not there, then nobody will eat the vegetables and without their ras and a juice. And so now, till now, Krishna has mentioned that he is helping us to live in this universe. And then after that, he has mentioned he has helping us to live on this planet. Now he will mention in the verse 40, he is helping us to live in this body. The body which we have received, and according to our previous desires and karma. So Krishna is helping us to live in this body, and which we have accepted. So what Krishna is mentioning regarding that, although we have vegetables, and so we know the vegetables are they are very potent and in giving us strength and good health and taste to our tongue and good pleasure to our tongue, taste to our tongue. So all these things are given by vegetable, and which Krishna has mentioned previously. But if all these things are available, but if we are not able to digest the vegetable, so then there is no meaning. So now Krishna is mentioning here that he is helping us in our digestion also, in this body, and to live in this body, he is helping us in our digestion also. So in that way, we are dependent on Krishna, and he is maintaining us by these different ways. So what Krishna is mentioning, aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashritah pranapana samayuktah pachami annam chaturvidham. Krishna is mentioning, I am the fire of digestion in the bodies of all living entities. So because of Krishna, we are able to digest, because he is the fire of digestion. And I join with the air of life, outgoing and incoming, prana and apana. It's all air. We know that by common sense, if person is dead or alive, how they check in our traditional way. And in one of the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he was unconscious and in his Ashta Satvika Vikar. So then there people from the villages, they how they check, they kept the cotton and near the outside the nose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so this symptom of life, air, is one of the symptom that person is living or dead. So that also is done by Krishna, so that we can live in this particular body which we have received, and to digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. And so there are 4 kinds of foodstuff. Pachami annam chaturvidham. In Gurvashtak also, Mangalarti also, this comes, that 4 types of foodstuff. Somebody can read.
According to the Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach which digests all food sent there. When the fire is not blazing, there is no hunger. And when the fire is in order, we become hungry. Sometimes, when the fire is not going nicely, treatment is required. In any case, this fire is representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic mantras, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 5.9.1, also confirm that the Supreme Lord or the Brahman is situated in the form of the fire within the stomach and is digesting all kinds of foodstuffs. Ayam Agnir Vaishvanaro Yoyam Anta Purushe Yenetam Annam Pachyate. Therefore, since he is helping in the digestion of all kinds of foodstuff, the living entity is not independent in the eating process. Unless the Supreme Lord helps him in digestion, there is no possibility of eating. He thus produces and digests foodstuff, and by his grace, we are enjoying the life. In the Vedanta Sutra 1.2.27, this is also confirmed. Shabda Shabdadibhyo Antaha Pratishtanacha Cha. The Lord is situated within sound and within the body, within the air, and even within the stomach as the digestive force. There are 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Some are swallowed, some are chewed, some are licked up, and some are sucked. And He is the digestive force for all of them.
Thank you, Paul. So we'll just see the purport. So Prabhupada is mentioning, according to Ayurvedic Shastra, we understand that there is a fire in the stomach, which digests all food sent there. So how digestion happens according to Ayurveda? And so this fire, because of this fire, when the fire is not blazing, then there is no hunger. So what is the connection between fire and hunger? Means the previously what we have ate, and that is not digested. So that is there in the stomach only, and because fire is not there. So that's why if fire is there, then that will be digested and excreted. After that, then hunger is there for demand of new food. And so then fire is in order, and then we become hungry. Sometimes when the fire is not going nicely, then treatment is required. In any case, this fire is representative of the Supreme. So that is not subject, but just Prabhupada mentioned that. And the main point here is that fire is coming from Supreme Lord. And so Vedic mantras also confirm. And here also Krishna has mentioned, but in Vedas also. And it is mentioned that Supreme Lord or Brahman is situated in the form of fire within the stomach, and it digesting all kinds of food stuff. What is that Sanskrit line? Ayam Agnir Vaishvanaro Yoyam Antah Purushe Enedam Annam Pachyate. So therefore, since he is helping in the digestion of all kinds of food stuff, the living entity is not independent in the eating process. So we are not independent in eating. So we are completely dependent on Krishna. Unless he helps us in digestion, so we cannot eat next time. Unless whatever is there that get digested, we cannot eat. So because he is there, we are able to eat. And he thus produces and digests food. So food is also who is producing? Vegetable who is producing? Krishna is producing. And although he is producing vegetables, he is helping us to digest also. By his grace, we are enjoying life. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also confirmed. What is mentioned? Shabdadibhyo antah pratisthanacha. The Lord is situated pratisthanacha within sound, Shabdadibhyo, within the body, within the air, and even within the stomach as the digestive force. And so in sound also he is there, in body also he is there, in air also he is there, and in stomach also as a fire digestive force is there. And there are 4 kinds of food stuff, and which he is help us to digest. Just acharyas have mentioned what kind of food stuff are there, and Prabhupada also has mentioned some are swallowed. So some are swallowed means, so in Sanskrit it is called as swallowed, some are chewed. And so chewed is bhaksham, it is mentioned in Sanskrit. And some are leaked. Lehyam. Leaked means lehyam. And some are sucked. So sucked is called as chusyam. Chusyam. Yes, this is Cusyam, chusyam. And this swallowed. And swallowed is called as bhojam. Means eat, bhojam. And they give example, so what comes in their category. So bhojam category, and so bhaksham category. First, it is mentioned bhaksham category, chewed. So in that it is mentioned what is like which we take bhakri, chapati, and bread. That is mentioned, and the chickpeas, and that kind of sabjis, chickpeas and chapati, bhakri, bread, and that is bhaksham. And after that it is lehyam. So in that what comes? That milk, rice, and milk comes, and raw sugar, honey comes layam, and honey, sugar, they comes in this category, layam. And after that, what is chusyam, and in chusyam category, it is mentioned that sugar cane and sugar cane, raw sugar cane, visak, and then avla, amlaki, avla. These kind of thing comes in chusyam. And then bhojam. Bhojam is swallow. And so in a swallowing category, what comes is so what we swallow is juices and soup, and a dal we swallow, and a chas, milk, that kind of swallow, which we directly swallow in milk, juice, dal, and generally liquid atom, which we swallow. These are some details acharyas have given. So what are these four things and what comes in under them? So we'll stop here. Somebody has any question?